Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. We are opening up the ultimate historical mystery box today to peel back the layers of a true 4,500-year-old enigma, the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's a structure that has endured sandstorms, shifting empires, and thousands of years of human history, yet it still stands tall, holding its secrets tight. Instead of just reading off a list of facts, we're going to visually unpack this magnificent puzzle together. Let's jump right in.
Here is our investigation map. We'll be covering the scale of the mystery, evolution of the tomb, alternative theories, the engineering puzzle, and finally, modern discoveries.
All right, part 1, the scale of the mystery.
To really get why this thing has baffled us for millennia, we've got to talk about its sheer, overwhelming physical reality. Okay, let's dive into this. 2.3 million. That's the estimated number of individual, massive stone blocks that carefully stacked up to build the Great Pyramid. And we aren't talking about standard bricks here, folks. Every single one of these stones weighs somewhere between 2 and 80 tons. Try to picture just moving one of those, let alone millions.
And it actually gets even crazier. 800 kilometers. That is how far ancient workers had to transport some of the absolute heaviest granite stones they used for the inner chambers, dragging them all the way from Aswan up to Giza. Thousands of years ago, no advanced transport systems, no modern machinery, not even commercial wheels, just human ingenuity.
So, when you tally up all that limestone, the granite, the mortar, you get a grand total of around 5.75 million tons. Originally, this thing towered 482 feet in the air. It was literally the tallest man-made structure in the world for about 4,000 years. The base alone covers an astounding 13 acres. It's just mind-blowing.
And this brilliantly illustrates what we're actually dealing with. If we take the Great Pyramid's 5.75 million tons and compare it to the tallest building in the modern world, the Burj Khalifa, which sits at around 500,000 tons, you realize the Great Pyramid is roughly 11 to 12 times heavier. It's a literal mountain built by human hands.
Moving on to part 2, evolution of the tomb.
So the Great Pyramid wasn't just some sudden, overnight invention that popped out of thin air. It was actually the culmination of a highly methodical, evolutionary process in human architecture. To really grasp it, we have to look at its predecessor, the Mastaba. Before the big, smooth-sided pyramids came along, Egyptian royalty and top officials were buried in these. They were basically flat-roofed rectangular structures that hid an underground burial chamber. This was the architectural baseline for their civilization.
Around 2600 BC, we start with those flat mastaba tombs. But then, a brilliant architect named Imhotep gets this idea. What if we just stacked 6 mastabas on top of each other? Boom! Djoser Step Pyramid is born. Fast forward a few decades, King Sneferu experiments with filling in those steps, giving us the first true pyramid. This direct architectural lineage is exactly what paved the way for King Khufu to commission the Great Pyramid of Giza in 2560 BC. Now, mainstream archaeology tells us the Great Pyramid was built as a royal tomb. It sits right on the west bank of the Nile, the land of the dead, and it was designed to help Pharaoh Khufu journey into the afterlife alongside the setting sun. We know this because experts decoded their pictographic hieroglyphics using the Rosetta Stone. But here is the massive twist that injects a profound sense of mystery into the whole story. When archaeologists finally breached the king's chamber, they found absolutely no mummy, no treasures, just a completely empty stone coffin.
Which brings us to part 3, alternative pyramid theories.
Because of that glaringly empty coffin and the totally staggering scale we just looked at, people have come up with widely different hypotheses about what this monumental structure was actually meant to do. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer spectrum of ideas. We just talked about the mainstream tomb theory, but then you look at the power plant theory. Folks like Christopher Dunn, drawing on ideas from Nikola Tesla, suggest that quartz and the granite combined with the pyramid's resonance generated literal worldwide energy. Then there are 12th century biblical scholars who claimed it was a colossal granary to store food for a 7-year famine. And of course, the ancient aliens theory, popularized by Eric von Däniken, suggesting it was an extraterrestrial navigation marker. Regardless of where you stand, these theories just highlight how much the structure captivates the human imagination.
And let's be fair, those alternative theories, they are often fueled by genuine, mind-bending anomalies. I mean, the internal temperature acts like a natural AC, staying right around 20 degrees Celsius, completely ignoring the blistering desert heat outside. The walls are aligned to true north with almost flawless accuracy, without modern compasses. It actually has 8 sides, They're slightly indented, which is really only visible from the sky on the solar equinox. And its perimeter-to-height ratio mathematically correlates perfectly with the dimensions of the Earth. How on earth did they possess such profound astronomical and mathematical knowledge back then?
Okay, let's jump into part 4, the engineering puzzle solved. Let's pivot smoothly from the mystical why over to the scientific how. Because beyond the theories, the brilliant ingenuity of these ancient workers is something we can actually track and celebrate. Remember those massive granite blocks? Ancient Egyptians primarily used soft copper tools. So, how do you cut one of the hardest stones on Earth with copper? It was incredibly simple, but so effective. Step 1. They wedged dry wood into natural holes in the rock. Step 2. They just poured water over that wood. As the wood soaked up the water, it expanded, building this immense pressure inside the rock until, snap, the solid granite simply cracked and broke. They literally weaponized the natural laws of physics.
But cutting the stone is only half the battle, right? Which brings us to the massive question that plagued historians for centuries. How in the world do you move an 80-ton stone on dry sand? If you've ever tried dragging a cooler across a dry beach, you know the sand just piles up in front of it and stops you dead in your tracks.
Well, the answer is a brilliant, ancient workaround known as the wet sand and friction theory. By pouring a precise amount of water onto the sand directly in front of the wooden sled carrying the stone, the sand suddenly becomes rigid. This unbelievable, yet simple action drastically reduces friction, literally halving the pulling force required to keep that heavy stone moving forward.
Let's move to and see how this builds a much clearer picture of the construction. First off, archaeological evidence shows the pyramid was built by an estimated 30,000 highly skilled, well-fed workers over 20 years. These were not slaves. We've also found an ancient papyrus proving that limestone was ferried by boats down the Nile. And that wet sand trick we just talked about? We actually found a wall painting in the tomb of Jehuti-Hotep showing a worker doing exactly that, pouring water right in front of a sled. As for lifting the stones up, the theories range from massive external ramps, an internal winding ramp, or maybe even a hydraulic water lift system.
Finally, Part 5, Modern Discoveries and Beyond.
So now we're stepping out of the ancient sands and into the modern era, where cutting-edge tech is still unlocking profound secrets inside this UNESCO World Heritage Site. Because humans obviously can't squeeze into the tiny air shafts deep inside the pyramid, experts have been sending in these small robotic cameras. And when one of these robots squeezed deep into a previously unreachable chamber, it sent back astonishing footage. Unexplained red symbols and letters painted right on the walls. Researchers think these might actually be markings left by the original engineers over 4,000 years ago. But their exact meaning? That's a code we still haven't fully cracked.
And the craziest part? The story isn't even over. Right now, experts are using ground-penetrating technology to look below the plateau itself, which leaves us with a really tantalizing thought. Will the coming years, maybe even 2025, finally confirm the existence of undiscovered underground passages beneath the Great Pyramid? What massive secrets could be waiting just beneath the sand, ready to rewrite our history books all over again? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, you guys. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you on the next one.